There's this common misconception that fat loss should feel difficult and that we need a very strict approach to make progress. While losing a good amount of fat definitely takes effort, we should not make it unnecessarily more difficult. As long as you have a few key variables in place, we have flexibility in terms of how you approach your nutrition and training for fat loss progress. So in today's video, I will give you 5 science-based tips on how you can make your fat loss journey a more enjoyable one. We will mostly be speaking about how you can tailor your training and nutrition to your current lifestyle and preferences so that you can stay more consistent and make good long-term progress. Let's dive straight into the first science-based tip by discussing meal timing and frequency. A common myth in the fat loss space is that you should have small and frequent meals to keep your metabolism supposedly active. This idea stems from the assumption that as you eat more frequently in a day, your body burns more calories to digest the foods you eat, which is known as the thermic effect of food. However, if we look at actual research on the topic, we see that the thermic effect of food is not influenced by how often you eat in a day. Whether you eat 1,000 calories in one meal or divide these 1,000 calories over 2 meals, the thermic effect remains the same. This helps explain why research shows that weight loss is not affected by meal frequency as long as calorie intake is matched. In other words, as long as you maintain a daily calorie deficit, whether you eat 2 times per day or 5 times per day will produce similar fat loss, so let's make use of this flexibility. If you are the type of person that likes to eat small meals more frequently in a day, go for it while keeping an eye on your total daily calorie intake. On the other hand, if you prefer something like an intermittent fasting approach where say you skip breakfast and have a larger lunch and dinner, that works as well. There is no one best meal frequency or time to eat. Maintain what suits your schedule best because that will allow you to sustain being in a calorie deficit. The second tip is about having flexible food options. There's often confusion around what you can or can't eat while in a fat loss phase. Common questions I receive are like, should you restrict carbs and should you cut out all snacks from your diet? Let me be clear on this. When it comes to losing fat, no foods are off limits. There is no single food item that will directly make you gain or lose fat. As shown through extensive research, your daily calorie intake is the main driver of fat mass changes. So having food rules in your fat loss phase in which you just completely avoid certain food groups just makes things unnecessarily more difficult. Instead of having a very strict eating approach that goes against all your currently existing nutrition habits and preferences, let's create an eating system that makes sense for your lifestyle. Because the truth of the matter is that as long as you are in a calorie deficit, all diets work. When a ketogenic diet and a high-carb diet were compared with each other, fat loss was found to be similar when calorie and protein intake was matched. Another study compared the effectiveness of many popular diets, and again it was found that fat loss is similar as long as calories are matched. So rather than trying to follow the next popular diet, when you start your fat loss phase, look within. What are your nutrition habits? What meals do you enjoy consuming? And then look into whether there's a way you can control the portion sizes of these meals to create a calorie deficit. And are you perhaps also able to incorporate more vegetables and protein into these same meals to create satisfying meals while in a calorie deficit? If you incorporate meals you enjoy consuming and they fill you up, and then say for instance you also like to have a piece of chocolate in the evening every once in a while staying in that calorie deficit, that's totally fine. Your progress will still continue and you will have a more enjoyable approach on your hands. Now, this is not to say that calories is all that matters and you should just eat whatever, because what you eat in the fat loss phase can also impact how many calories you eat. Choosing to eat more foods that actually fill you up while in a calorie deficit can help you more easily restrict calorie intake to achieve that deficit in the first place. That's why the third tip that I'd like to discuss is incorporating more high-volume foods into your diet. As shown in a 2019 study, those that eat mostly processed food tend to have a higher calorie intake, whereas people eating whole foods were able to more effectively control their calories. This likely is because whole foods in general are more satisfying. Let's take 150 calories of whole potatoes and 150 calories of potato chips. As you can see, the whole food equivalent gives you a greater volume of food. The higher in volume the foods are that you eat, the more you'll be able to fill up your gut and stretch the smooth muscles of your stomach. When your gut is filled up more, your nervous system will signal satiety to the brain and you will feel more satisfied. So while being flexible with your food options, also aim to incorporate more volume-dense foods to feel more satisfied and avoid excessive hunger while being in a calorie deficit. The fourth science-based tip is about training, and just like with nutrition, we often have assumptions about what types of training sessions we should be doing when fat loss is the goal. But again, we have flexibility in terms of how to approach your training for fat loss. If you want to develop or maintain muscle while losing fat, then having a clear focus on lifting weights makes sense, as I have shown in previous videos. But if we're speaking strictly fat loss, any type of activity that you do that keeps you active and you enjoy doing it works. Whether you perform high-intensity interval training, like to go for runs, lift weights, or a combination of the three, if you control your nutrition and regularly stay active, you will be able to effectively create a calorie deficit for fat loss. It's also worth mentioning that recovery plays an important role in this discussion. While being active is awesome, there is a point at which doing more training does not yield more health or fat loss benefits. For instance, if you suddenly do a lot more cardio than usual, there is research indicating that your spontaneous activity throughout the day decreases as a compensatory response. This makes sense. If you suddenly do a lot more training than usual, your body will likely be more tired during the other parts of the day, and you are less likely to move around as much outside of your training sessions. Not to mention that too much training eventually catches up to you, to the point that the intensity of your workouts decrease because of excessive training fatigue. I've found that for most people, doing between 3 to 5 workouts per week is a reasonable target. Preferably, something like 3 to 4 strength and potentially 1 to 2 cardio sessions per week is a good starting point. But again, this can and should be fully customized to your schedule and your previous experiences with training. The fifth and last tip is actually something to avoid rather than to take action on, and that is not using these supposed fat loss supplements. I mention this because some people feel like they need to have a certain fat loss supplement or fat burner before they can really start maximizing their fat loss progress. If muscle growth is the goal, there certainly are some supplements like creatine and whey protein that have good scientific backing and produce small benefits. But for fat loss, the promises of fat burner supplements simply do not hold up. One review paper analyzed the effectiveness of popular fat burner supplements. Only caffeine and green tea had some scientific data to back up its fat metabolism enhancing properties. But even the effects of these supplements were small and more consistent in individuals who rarely consumed caffeine. Another review paper analyzed the use of detox diets and cleanses. There is no compelling evidence to suggest that detox diets improve toxin elimination or realize long-term fat loss. I purposely left this tip for last because I just want to emphasize that there is no fat loss secret or trick regardless of what any supplement out there claims. Focus on creating a consistent calorie deficit through your diet and training, and then the progress will add up. And that was all for today's video. I hope you now have some practical tips on how you can customize your fat loss approach based on your lifestyle and preferences. If you found this video helpful and want to support the channel, then leave me a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video.